Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May Show.
As the president has said time and time again, we're ready to meet, and if it happens, that's great. And if it doesn't, we'll see what happens. We're still hopeful that the meeting will take place, and we'll continue down that path. But at the same time, we know that we've been prepared that these could be tough negotiations. The president is ready if the meeting takes place, and if it doesn't, we'll continue the maximum pressure campaign that's been ongoing.
Probably a variety of different reasons. Did you sense a certain amount of glee with the liberal media as though, told you so, Donald Trump's not ready to handle this mastermind, this dictator in North Korea. Too much for Donald Trump, too much for Donald Trump. Well, we'll explore this issue because it's worth exploring. I would like to think that every American would love to have a denuclearized Korean peninsula, making the world, planet Earth, just a little bit safer. We have so much on our plate today. Welcome aboard Big League Politics. I'm Bill LeMay. It is Over the Hump Day, May 16th, 2018. 3. Well, we could do a show every day on this. Liberal hate. But it is astounding. We have some stories today that should even shock you. And you've seen it all, haven't you? I mean, since Donald Trump's presidency, the vitriol, the viciousness of liberals, in fact, liberal tolerance has proven to be exactly what we've been telling you for decades now. It's just an oxymoron. But wait till you see this. And some good news for you if you happen to be someone who enjoys good comedy and you were sad to see a particular show go off the air that's coming back. And Roseanne's got some controversy as well. So it's all going to blend together. And once again, the one thing about Donald Trump, he has exposed to all of us exactly what a Democrat liberal is today. And it's not very pretty, is it? 2. There was some campaigning across the United States, some primary action, and I think it was 3 or 4 states. The big one, though, was in Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump, of course, won, surprising a lot of people, particularly Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and James Comey and a bunch of other folks. But how are the Republicans going to do? I can tell you this, that the results out of Pennsylvania, Democrats are pretty happy about this. I'm not sure if they should be because, first of all, I guess there's a pink wave now coming. I guess they've given up on the blue wave. But socialists won. I mean it. Democratic socialists, 4 of them won in Pennsylvania. Now, and they beat moderate, what I guess we would call conservative Democrats by today's standards. Certainly they were liberal Democrats at one time. Beat them. So what does the future have in store for all of us as we kick back and watch the midterms come our way? Where will the Democratic Party be? Where will they plant their flag? If it has anything, it resembles anything like Pennsylvania, it's going to be a boatload of fun for all of us. 1. All right, this is a pretty big deal, kind of, sort of. I don't know. I think Donald Trump has had both feet on the ground. So is his administration. A lot of good news coming out of North Korea, clearly. With the release of the prisoners, it seemed it was just smooth sailing. And then, of course, we had a little bit of hiccup yesterday as news agencies out of both the South and North Korean news agencies expressed displeasure at what was going on. The North Koreans threatened to cancel the nuclear summit. North Korea says may consider summit with the United States or reconsider. And it has to do with what is taking place with the military training exercises. These have been going on forever and ever and ever. And in fact, they even expressed to the South Korean president, who mentioned it to the press and to us, the president himself, that, they really didn't have any problem with it because they understood it. So right now, of course, you have those who hate Donald Trump going, I hope this fails, this miserable SOB, which is a terrible thing, don't you think? You would want this to succeed. And of course, then you have the rest of us who are going, well, this is kind of sad, not entirely surprising. that this would happen. But Donald Trump hasn't changed at all. He's been very forthright about where he stands. He's not going to ease up sanctions. He basically goes after Kim Jong-un in a big, big way. And he's not going to let up. You remember, let's take you back in time. Some of the things he said about North Korea and possibly got us to where we are today.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
I think Kim Jong-un believes him. I think most of the world believes him. And that's what's got a lot of liberals and Jimmy Kimmel, the dumbest man on television, very, very upset. Because they actually believe that Donald Trump will just single-handedly blow up the entire earth with nuclear weapons. But this rhetoric, I think you have to credit Donald Trump with at least bringing Kim Jong-un into the real world where he's beginning to weigh his pros and cons. You also have to understand, and this is something that isn't very publicized, is that Donald Trump, although he's getting a lot of criticism now from the left about being an appeaser to China, has worked with China and other countries, and they have put the screws to North Korea in a bigger way than ever before. So all of these things are working together, and you have what looks like to be a historic opportunity here, where the end of the Korean War, peace, love, and the rejoining of Korea into one peninsula, and the denuclearization of that peninsula. I mean, that is beyond historic. I don't know what the word is, but it's beyond historic. And then comes John Bolton. And he has something to say on the talk circuit, which might have caused some issues with Kim Jong-un.
Will President Trump insist that Kim give up, ship out all of his nuclear weapons, all of his nuclear fuel, all of his ballistic missiles before the U.S. makes any concessions?
Yeah, I think that's what denuclearization means. And we have very much in mind the Libya model from 2003, 2004. There are obviously differences. The Libyan program was much smaller. But that was basically the agreement that we made. And so we'll want to test North Korea in this first meeting for evidence that they have made that strategic decision.
Now, if you're Kim Jong-un, and you're sitting back there, well, I'd be sitting back like this because he's a rather chubby person. Libya? Really, Libya? Well, let me just say that first, I have nuclear bombs. I don't know how many he has, but he's got nuclear bombs. Libya didn't have them. And if it weren't for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, Bolton might be okay. But you see, Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, not a pleasant man, more pleasant than Kim Jong-un, though, worked with the United States. He was also afraid of the United States. He didn't want to be invaded. He didn't want to lose his life. So he said, yeah, I'm going to give up my nuclear weapon program and my chemicals and anything else you want. And I'm here for you. In fact, he was fighting terrorism. He was keeping that influx of ISIS and Al-Qaeda group going to Europe. He was preventing that from happening. And then, of course, the brilliance of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, they decided to go to the UN because, you know, Gaddafi is not a very nice man, pressing his people, let's invade his country. And he did. Hillary Clinton did. He gave Hillary Clinton the credit for that. So now you got Kim Jong-un going, what the hell? You want me to give up my nuclear weapons? You want me to follow the Libya program and give everything up, the one thing that is protecting my sovereignty from you? Because you see, Trump, you might be okay, but the Democrats can't be trusted. Look what they did. And so that's a problem with Kim Jong-un. I don't really not understand that. I mean, I can kind of identify with that. I mean, listen, he's an awful human being, but if you're in his position, you're going, Libya model? Hell, the Democrats proved to me exactly what the Libya model is all about. I give everything up, and then you guys, you come invade my country and take it from me. I don't think so. So I don't know if John Bolton realized that. And quite honestly, for those of you who don't know who John Bolton is, this might help.
Bolton's worked in every Republican administration since Ronald Reagan's, and he's been the loudest hawk in all of them.
As President Bush has said, at the end of the story, Iraq will no longer have weapons of mass destruction.
In facial hair and foreign intervention, he remains a paragon of consistency. Today, he's a vocal advocate for military regime change in Iran and has proposed a first strike against North Korea's nuclear program. Nobody who knows Bolton worries about his ability to please a famously inconsistent president. They say it's those beneath Bolton who should worry. Bolton's 2005 nomination for UN ambassador was almost killed by claims that he ignored intelligence and berated junior staffers.
Unfortunately, my judgment, my opinion, he's a quintessential kiss up, kick down sort of guy. There are a lot of them around. I'm sure you've met them. But the fact is that he stands out.
All right. Obviously, they don't have a very nice opinion of John Bolton. There are others who think he's phenomenal. John Bolton is a man, he is a hawk, there's no question about that, and he has stood and believed and publicly stated things that seem to be in conflict of where President Trump is, at least publicly, and what he has stated, and what he would like to see the United States do or not do. Now, Donald Trump is also famous for his management style, and that he has people like, in this case, John Bolton, who might be an extreme opinion based on where Donald Trump is in the big scheme of things, but he also has others that balance that out. The question is whether or not a John Bolton type is someone you put out publicly, right? To go to the talk shows and do that whole circuit. I have a lot of faith in Donald Trump, and thus far, he's been very successful accomplishing things, quite honestly, on his own without the help of very, very many people. But John Bolton is certainly one of those folks you'd put in the category along with Bill Kristol and folks who most definitely would like to see us invade and take over the Middle East, particularly. There's actually a plan on the table for that, or there was. And George W. was a part of that, and others as well. They're globalists in another way. See, I come from the same world that I think I'm probably more extreme than Donald Trump, that we have no business doing anything to any other countries because, well, they're countries. They're sovereign countries. Imagine if people did to us what we do to all these other countries. Plus, our founding fathers were very smart, and they said, you know what? We should just be friends with everyone, and if they try to hurt us, we just eliminate them from planet Earth. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. They were much more eloquent. So here we are. They're upset because, well, these military games that we have to do, they understands, they stated we have to do it, and now there's this threat that they're going to pull out. Sanders, of course, had to answer to that because the questions are, what's going on here? What's going to happen? What's happening to President Trump? Is this all falling apart, she said.
Look, as the president has said time and time again, we're ready to meet, and if it happens, that's great. And if it doesn't, we'll see what happens. We're still hopeful that the meeting will take place, and we'll continue down that path. But at the same time, we know that we've been prepared that these could be tough negotiations. The president is ready if the meeting takes place, and if it doesn't, we'll continue the maximum pressure campaign that's been ongoing.
All right, well, that seems like a reasonable, rational, adult thing to say. In fact, Donald Trump has been saying that all along. Boy, you know, we've been very harsh. We're going to remain very, very harsh. We're not going to pull back. We're not going to even pull back during the negotiations. We're just not going to do it because that, I believe, is what got them to the table. I was speaking as Donald Trump there. He has much more information than I have, but I think it's true. I think it's absolutely true. His rhetoric and his tough policies and his ability to pull together entities that have not been very cooperative with the United States for a long time to make this a very painful event for North Korea has had a lot to do with this. Now, what I think has happened is Kim Jong-un picked up Donald Trump's Art of the Deal book and began to read it. So, wait a second. Maybe we're being too easy here. Maybe he's posturing. Maybe he wants to, or maybe it's all going south. But the matter, the fact of the matter is, the military exercises themselves. Are they really the reason for that? This is routine, is it not? Routine military exercises. I think you have an image here to throw up, if you would. That would be awesome. And the United States will also have to undertake careful deliberations about the fate of the planned North Korea-U.S. summit in light of this provocative military ruckus jointly conducted with the South Korean authorities. Well, as I've said, and I'm sure if you've been paying attention, this has been going on for a very, very long time. And most rational people, including Kim Jong-un, understand why you have to do that. State Department also reiterated that Kim is on the record basically saying, I got no problem with this.
Kim Jong-un had said that he understands the importance to the United States that we conduct these joint exercises. These joint exercises continue to go on.
All right. So, I mean, he is a guy a military guy. He's the head of a country. He may be smart, he may not be smart, but he holds a bunch of nuclear weapons, and he has been basically threatening everybody on planet Earth. So he's not a dummy. He understands that with South Korea particularly, and those are the two largest standing armies, you got going on, North and South, and the amount of lives that could be lost like that, it is imperative that the South and the United States and allies have these military exercises in order to stay sharp and to train for the ever-changing potential battlefield. Now, North Korea. This is not a big deal, right? I mean, they've been seeing this take place for decades. Are they just trying to make excuses?
The funny thing was, though, they didn't complain about them for a couple months. And in fact, when the South Korean National Security Advisor went to North Korea a few weeks ago, it was remarkable that he came back with the news that Kim Jong-un didn't mind the exercises, supposedly, and said that he understood why they had to happen, which, of course, is what we say and what we firmly believe. As long as there's a powerful military threat from North Korea, even if the atmospherics are better these days, we have to take that threat seriously. And these drills, as you say, have been going on, 2 big drills per year for a very long time. But it looked as if North Korea just wasn't going to care. That was going to be apparently a concession. Maybe they are starting to rethink their tactics. Maybe they feel like they're giving away too many concessions for free before a negotiation. Or maybe Kim Jong-un is looking for an excuse to get out of the summit altogether because he decides he doesn't like the path that he's headed on towards denuclearization.
Maybe all the above, maybe none of the above. No one really knows. No one's inside Kim Jong-un's head. And that would be a very scary place to be. So why is he doing it? You have to understand there's a lot on the table here. And unfortunately, the prior administration really made a huge mistake going after Libya. And Bolton made a big mistake by using that as an example of what could happen. What basically is publicly being stated is that President Donald Trump has said it, Bolton has said it, and everybody who represents the administration has said this. They want Kim Jong-un to get rid of all the nuclear weapons. All of it. Gone. Before they lift one sanction. It's a pretty tough stance. It's a pretty tough stance. Could this be? Kim Jong-un he's trying to find the right word because he's a brutal dictator, but he has made gestures that would indicate that he's open to talking, and he has made gestures by releasing the prisoners and without, wanting cargo planes full of money, and that seemed to be a very positive first step. So is this all just about, hey, leverage, coming down to leverage?
Yeah, certainly. As negotiating leverage is what's taking place here. But I will say this. It's the first negative aspect of Kim Jong-un's efforts going all the way back to participating in the South Korean Olympics, because one thing after another has all been positive, moving towards a fundamental shift in strategic policy and heading towards denuclearization. Likely this is what I said it is. They're negotiating over leverage and things they want to have on the table. I do believe behind the scenes, Dana, right now our diplomats are getting some insight into where North Korea is really heading. They just can't put the two leaders in the room without a lot of preparation and without understanding what the positions are. Now we're finally getting to see, and that's not going to be exposed to the American people, that's for sure. But they're getting exposed to the seriousness and the scale of what Kim Jong-un is really proposing. And hopefully it's moving in the right direction.
Got everything crossed. I hope it is too. The world would be a better place. And if it's too much to ask our democratic citizens to get on board and hope and pray for it as well, at least hope, then that's pretty sad, because it's something we should all be on board with. Who cares who gets the credit? If Obama could have done this, that would have been a good thing. If Trump can do this, it will be a good thing. And it's something we should all root for, but it's a tough thing to get done in America today because of the absolute blind hate that is raging across the country. All of it, of course, based on fantasy and misinformation, but nonetheless, it's there. So Kim Jong-un, we'll see. We'll see. I'm still pretty hopeful. I think they're going to get together and they'll have an opportunity to talk. There's a lot at stake here, and to suggest that it would be historic is an understatement if in fact they sign some sort of deal where the peninsula is denuclearized. Well, we also got a midterm election coming up. And socialists are winning. Socialists on the Democratic side. What are the Democrats to do? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May Show.
Did you know that a recent law allows a lot of the data to be made public on you, your data? For instance, if you got a speeding ticket that's now public, you can take a look at that, or maybe you've fortunately, you've had a run-in with the IRS and you've had a lien placed against you. It could be a number of different things, and some of it can be very, very embarrassing. Truth Finders is a wonderful way to not only check on yourself, but anybody in your life that you need to find answers on. In fact, this might be a good way to just plug in politicians' names, because the background information that comes back is second to none. They're ever expanding as millions upon millions of records are made available each and every day. Now, for you as an individual, it's important for you to understand what's out there on you, and who knows what you might uncover. Knowledge is powerful, and Truth Finder gives you just that. There is not another website that bad people are more afraid of than Truth Finder, because if you get something to hide, you're not going to be able to hide it from Truth Finder. So try it today. Go to the website. Take a run on it, all right? It's bigleaguepolitics.com/truthfinder. bigleaguepolitics.com/truthfinder.
But as for the U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania, man, it is going to be a doozy, because tonight, four-term incumbent Congressman Lou Barletta defeated the state representative Jim Cristiano, which will set up a major battle for Democratic Senator Bob Casey's seat. Barletta is a self-made businessman. As mayor of Hazleton, he made national headlines back in 2006 for his tough stance on illegal immigration. He was endorsed by President Trump, who actually urged him to run for the seat. And tonight, Barletta likened his candidacy to that of the president's. He said he's reaching out to Reagan Democrats. He calls himself a blue-collar, working-class guy who will fight for Pennsylvanians, noting that Casey frequently votes with Senator Elizabeth Warren, which he said makes her a great senator for California or Massachusetts, but not Pennsylvania. He says he does not have the values of the Keystone State.
The media said that Donald Trump could not win in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania sent Donald Trump to the White House. I was also told that I would never be mayor, and I was mayor for 3 terms. They also told me I'd never beat a 26-year incumbent, and we beat a 26-year incumbent. And now they're saying that I'm not going to beat Bob Casey, and we're going to beat Bob Casey.
He might. It's going to be a tough road. I learned of the mayor at the time. I've had a chance to talk to him many, many times. He's a decent, good guy, and he believes what he believes. And I know when he was under attack as mayor of Hazleton, he did have tough immigration stances. And this was under George W. Bush. But you know what those years were like for anybody who was tough on immigration or illegal immigration. And he stood his ground. And he has a lot of similarities with Donald Trump in that way, that he believes what he believes, and he stands there and he takes the heat. And there aren't many politicians who will do that. Now, here are the results in Pennsylvania, the Senate race. And you had Lou I'm just going to call him Lou, because that's what that's how he's running. Lou. Just vote for Lou. but clearly beating Jim Christiana by a significant amount in Pennsylvania. And he had the president's backing. And again, you can read into this that the president, of course, winning Pennsylvania, and he really wasn't supposed to, had an impact. He had a robocall, I believe. You want to hear it?
Hello, this is President Donald Trump. Pennsylvania, there's a big election for the U.S. Senate going on right now, and I need your help. Tuesday is Election Day, and I need you to go out and vote for my good friend, Lou Barletta, a very special guy. Let me tell you something about Lou. Lou Barletta was one of the very first people to get behind me in Pennsylvania. He was with me early on before everyone else started jumping on board. It took courage for Lou to do that, and I'll never forget it.
He's right about that, and that's what I take away from Lou Barletta. Again, I've watched him, particularly in Hazleton, and the heat he took, and then his career has just continued to grow as more and more Americans who are impacted by these big issues are gravitating to him. But he's got such an uphill battle because he's taking on an incumbent who has a big pile of cash. He's got millions of dollars just under his cushion in his house. He's so loaded with money, which is why it's important that you understand who these players are, because it would be wonderful if Lou won. So he's up against Casey. He's got Trump's support. Can he win?
Whether or not they like the direction that the country's on right now, the fact that unemployment is so low, the fact that black unemployment's at an all-time low, that's huge news for families that are looking to rise themselves up. Hispanic unemployment's at an all-time low. Women's unemployment's at an 18-year low. That's what really matters to people here in Pennsylvania. The tax cuts, 4.5 million Americans have seen a raise or a bonus because of that. And 90% of all Americans have more money in their pay because of it. Why would we go backwards? And I think that's really what this message is going to be about. It's not so much just about Donald Trump. It's about his policies that are helping families. And why would a senator, when you only get two, stand in the way of those policies that are helping so many of us here in Pennsylvania?
Well, that's the message, isn't it? And that message, I think, is relatable. If you happen to be someone who's gotten a tax cut and you have more money in your paycheck, gosh, it's been a long time since that's happened. Didn't happen in the 8 years under a Democrat-controlled White House. There's no question about that. Yes, jobs are coming back. In fact, I passed a guy who had a sign up, able-bodied guy who said, out of work, need help. And I'm going, there's help wanted signs everywhere. Do you recall, see if you remember this, driving anywhere, wherever you happen to live in this great country during the 8 years under Barack Obama, how many help wanted signs did you ever run across? They were non-existent. And then they started to pop up towards the very end of his presidency. I mean, actually, the recession ended the first year of his presidency, but his choking of the private sector policies, his big government policies, the government take care of everybody. The Obama regulations, Obamacare regulations, just killing the economy. They were calling it the new normal. Do you remember that? Well, and this is where this gentleman is absolutely correct. This is the message the Republicans can bring to the Main Street Americans. And for those who are experiencing it, it's a very believable message. How do you, if you're a Democrat, say, well, those damn tax cuts, we're going to repeal them? Which, by the way, they're saying. Who votes for that kind of stuff? We'll find out, I guess. We'll find out. Certainly, his Democratic counterpart has. He's a very big-time liberal, very critical of Donald Trump. He said this election will be a choice between a candidate who fights for working families and a candidate who fights for the corporate interests. The election will be a choice between a candidate who fights for the working families and a candidate who fights for the corporate interests that stack the deck against them. Really? It'll be a choice between a candidate who has made its mission to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and a candidate who has spent years working to undermine, privatize, or slash those programs. Are any of those programs working? Raise your hand. No, they are not. They're going bankrupt. As far as you see how Democrats just absolutely hate entities, the private sector, corporations. They've demonized them. This is a place where a lot of people work. A lot of people's careers have been spent at these corporations. A lot of people have built corporations from absolutely nothing. These are the people who say, hey, you didn't build that. Now give me your stuff. Give me your stuff. We're going to take it from you. They want to tax more. Yeah. So Lou, since that's what he's running on in Pennsylvania, Lou, he doesn't agree with any of that stuff because you know why? It doesn't work. It has never worked. And we have recent history. Unless you were born during the Obama administration, you have recent history. You can look back at it and go, boy, that time sucked. Right? It sucked. Not for everybody. There was a chosen few, the 1%ers that did quite well under Barack Obama and the Democratic Party because they do, as far as the poor, the low income, they got screwed big time under Obama and the Democrats, as they always do, because progressive policies never work. They always hurt the ones they are meant to help. So the blue wave, let's talk about that. I saw the poll today, and it was at one time, this is the generic poll between Democrats and Republicans, for whatever it's worth. It's just fun to talk about, I guess. You know, at one time it was a 16-point lead. Oh, they were so excited. Blue wave a-coming. Everybody hates Trump. Blue wave a-coming. Now it's down to, I saw one who had a single point, and now I saw another one today where it's like at 5 points, which is unbelievable because, for a couple of reasons, Democrats always win in that poll, but the president's party always has a tough time winning, period. You expect to get killed in the midterms. So they were very excited about the blue wave. What's the update on the blue wave?
So once upon a time, the Democrats are to a certain degree living with the false expectations that were set at the end of the year when things were just a total garbage fire for the Republicans. It's been a consistent 5, 6, 7 points, 7, 6, 5. It's been right in that space and average, and that's what it is. And if the election were held today, the Republicans might lose the House. They might keep it by a couple seats, but it would be on par with what we would have expected historically to see in presidential first-term midterms. Remember, the average loss of seats is 24, historically speaking. Republicans can only lose 23 and hold on to the House.
So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I can't predict in the future. I know that there was this big gap between Republican and Democrat, Democrats being on top, and it wasn't all that long ago. And now it shrunk. Doesn't mean it can't widen again. The events of the time and the poor education system in our country and the awful news that we call news networks of propaganda, they have impact. They really do have impact. In Pennsylvania, this is down on the state legislative level, you had, first of all, the media very excited about the fact that women won, so they have actually now called this a pink wave, but they were socialists, literally, openly declared socialists. And I didn't look at the districts. I can only guess what those districts are, and I'm guessing those are individuals who are ultra-liberal, probably minority districts, who are very much dependent on the government, whoever they are, very much dependent on the government, and probably don't really fully understand what socialism is about. But the fact that they beat Democrats, incumbent Democrats in the state, who are less liberal than they are, might be a bit of a canary in the coal mine for the Democratic Party as they move forward. Are they going to be so far left that it either brings America along, because we have a lot of people who want free stuff and don't understand that there's no such thing, or are they going to be so far left that, you know, even I could win an election as a Republican against them? Time will only tell. But here's something I do know that we have to shout from the mountaintops on, and that is our establishment GOP, the ones who make the decisions on where the money is going to go, which candidates to support. It doesn't look like they're on board with Lou in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no, I think we're all very realistic. First of all, I'm grateful that Lou Barletta won last night. He's a very legitimate candidate. He'll be a strong candidate in the fall. Pennsylvania is going to be a very tough pickup, Rob, for GOP in the Senate. I think you've got to look to West Virginia, Wisconsin, Missouri, Montana for better pickup opportunities for Republicans. Yeah. That all to say, if Lou runs a great race, he makes the Democrats play defense in Pennsylvania. You know, you never say never. I mean, the fact that Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016 is also a sign you just never say never. Things are possible. But I think Republicans have to be much more focused on picking up West Virginia with Patrick Morrisey, you know, Josh Hawley in Missouri. I think Rosendale will take out Tester in Montana, and I like Kevin Nicholson in Wisconsin. So I'm very realistic. Long shot in Pennsylvania, much better opportunities elsewhere.
And that's what it always comes down to. What can you win? What can you win? Well, you ought to look at it through your own eyes and how it impacts your life. All right? I mean, Lou is a kind of guy that you want to vote for. Well, you may not be in Pennsylvania, but wherever you are, he's going to need your support. He's going to need your money. He's an anti-establishment guy. He gets it. He gets it. Seems honorable as well. And the Republican Party probably not going to do a whole lot for him in Pennsylvania because they say he doesn't have a shot. I wouldn't count him out. But I think it has more to do with the fact that he is anti-establishment. He's a Trump kind of guy. And as you know, the establishment GOP doesn't particularly get behind those kinds of folk. Mitch McConnell isn't known to do that. But one never knows. Is it about winning for the party, or is it about winning for the people? I'm tired of the party winning. I could care less if the Republicans win or the Democrats win, because there's very little difference between the two. I want my people to win. The ones, regardless of party, who will put country first, obey the rule of law, or actually read the Constitution, you know, and understand that their power comes from us. They are a voice for us. I think Donald Trump understands that. So all we got to do is fill up the halls of Congress with little Trumps. It would be a wonderful, wonderful country. We could turn back the hands of time in the sense of bringing back personal responsibility, freedom, and liberty. Wouldn't that be awesome? Although I bet about a lot of folks are probably a little frightened by that. Here's what I do know. The liberals have lost their mind. So when we come back, a little bit of liberal hate. Oh, you've seen it on display, but some of this stuff has kind of slipped through the cracks. And it's important that you understand today's oxymoron is liberal tolerance. And Donald Trump is responsible for exposing liberals for who they really are. And you'll get to see it coming up next.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May. It's the Bill of May Show.
Birch Gold. Oh, they're awesome. They really are. First of all, thank you for being a sponsor of the show. But I found Birch Gold through word of mouth, so let me do my part here. And from me to your ears, they are a company that is the gold standard. It really is. I know it's a pun, but it really is. If you have a 401k or an IRA, have you thought about a precious metal IRA? Well, you can do it, and Birch Gold can make that happen for you. Now, there's no penalties, there's no tax implications. I mean, it's just a simple move, and this is like real stuff that you can hold in your hands type gold. And it's why? Well, for the obvious reasons, to protect yourself from the fluctuations of the market, from inflation. You've seen what is going down in South America. It certainly can happen here, hopefully not to that extent, but it's happened here in the past. Our debasing of our money. Every day we're printing more money. Our dollar is worth 97% less than it was when we were on the gold standard. And of course, as we print more money, it's less valuable, and it's your future. So I don't care how old you are. Your investments are there for you. It should be protected, and it only makes sense that it's protected and stabilized by precious metals. Now, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but fortunately, Birch Gold are experts on this. They have a 16-page booklet with insider information, stuff you cannot find anywhere else, and it's absolutely free. Go to their website and get it. There's no obligation, nothing else. Inform yourself. And by the way, not only is their personalized service second to none, I mean, they're educators. So ask as many questions as you like. There's nobody better than Birch Gold. So go get that 16-page booklet. Do it now by going to bigleaguepolitics.com/birchgold. That's bigleaguepolitics.com/birchgold.
Let's face it, great ideas aren't enough. The sad truth is that most of these ideas won't go anywhere until we deal with the defining crisis of this moment in our history. Democracy is crumbling around us.
Ah, yes, well, boy, the tolerant left. If they believed in God, I'd call them almost angels. But they don't, or at least most of them don't. So here you have this wonderful Elizabeth Warren, who's talking about the ills of where we are in this country and the hate and destruction of our democracy and how we treat one another in this country. Stephen King, he's a writer. I read a couple of his books and I really enjoyed him for a long time. The First Lady had surgery. You do know this, right? She was in the hospital. There was an issue with her kidney. And this great writer, an ultra-liberal, had this to say about Melania Trump, not to be snarky, which means he is about to become snarky. But Melania can probably use a week's rest from Blabbermouth Don. Sounds heavenly to me. Hey, 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 hey. That seems wrong in so many different ways. You remember how the media got so upset over the snarky little bad joke about John McCain. And then there's this. And this is exactly what has happened because people like Elizabeth Warren exist in this country as they talk out of one side of their mouth, but their actions, of course, inspire people to do things that they feel is absolutely reasonable. And you never hear Elizabeth Warren and others, unless they're really put on the spot, denouncing any of these things. Here you have a black dude. I think it's a black guy, black Trump supporter. A black supporter, a black dude. You can't do things to black people in this country without being held accountable, right? Unless, of course, you're a liberal at the Cheesecake Factory. Watch.
Oh, well, we were sitting at the table, and my girlfriend's aunt started noticing, and she informed us that, hey, there's a couple of coworkers back there looking at Eugene and making gestures towards him. So I just turned around and looked at them. I didn't say anything. I see that they're staring at me, staring at my girlfriend's family. They're just trying to intimidate us, and I just ignored the whole thing.
What
I
were
just
they
stayed on my
saying?
phone watching.
What types of things were they saying?
Well, after I turned around and was looking at my phone, they all started getting behind us, and one of the coworkers was saying, "Man, I'll knock that hat off his head. I'll hit him so hard that knock his hat off." They were clenching their fists, and they were just standing behind me, trying to scare us and stuff. I mean, I wasn't really, intimidated by anything, but my girlfriend's family and everybody, it was just sad. There was just everybody was disappointed. Mother's Day was completely ruined, and everybody. It's just sad the outcome, the way everything happened.
Yeah, but he's not really black. Right? What would liberals call that man? Uncle Tom? Uncle Tom, maybe? House slave? Not authentic black? Oh, yes, the very tolerant and giving, loving people like Elizabeth Warren and others. CNN's a wonderful place to go, right? They had a bit of an issue here. Oh, wait a second. That looks like a scope on a gun. Donald Trump pointing to heavens to commemorate police officers killed in the line of duty. This is this nut from CNN, which I don't even know why we're highlighting these people. Nobody even watches this network anymore, and I can understand why. You remember when these folks went off on Sarah Palin, who had a target on particular congressional districts, and they actually blamed her for Giffords shooting? And here he is. Well, he did apologize. And he said, I tweeted a GIF about President Trump. We use GIF Grabber to make our GIFs, and it defaults to an image below as first frame to clear up any unintended confusion. I've removed the tweet. Oh, it's just accident. Just accident. Didn't he see that before he actually pushed the button? And once it's up there, you do check your work, don't you? Wouldn't you have gone, oh my goodness, that looks like a gun sight? Did you really have to wait for people to say, hey, that looks like a gun sight? And besides trying to take God out of their Catholics today are a pretty progressive group of people who continually vote for Democrats. I don't even know how you can be a Democrat and a Catholic, but there are many of those. But for those people, maybe not so much. But for others, you know, like a rosary is a very religious piece of apparel, and that we, as at one time I was a Catholic. I still am, and just don't practice it. But it's used in the Mass, and it's mocked, and it's continually mocked. You know, they would never do this. And we just entered Ramadan today, by the way, as Muslims all over the world will be fasting. Can you imagine if everybody got together and dressed up like Muslims at the Met? They wouldn't do it. Do you know why? I think you know why. And then, of course, the dumbest man on television, although it's a neck-and-neck race, I'll go with Jimmy Kimmel this time around. He doesn't have much respect for religion either.
I don't know what Catholic imagination these outfits came from, but the Catholic fashions from when I grew up were a little bit different. This is Sister Mary Frances O'Brien wearing the latest from J.C. Penney.
And the crowd roared. But the nun in that picture is a real person who has dedicated her entire life to God and to kids. Our next guest wrote an op-ed about her titled, Meet Jimmy.
I grew up as a Catholic, went to Catholic school, and we had nuns, and we learned not to make fun of nuns. And again, I would love for him to make fun of another faith and another religious leader within that faith. Jimmy Kimmel's not going to do it. He's a despicable human being. He's very, very dumb. Not very smart man, but this is what liberals are. They're very intolerant of anybody that is different from them. Have you picked this up now? Has it become clear even to the Democrats who are normal Democrats, just everyday people who go to work, have kids, even go to church? Have you picked up on the fact that your party has completely left you behind and actually they have disdain for you? Now we have this NAACP president, which is a very powerful person in any community. This is a gentleman who is down in South Carolina, and he was driving home, and this is, you can read this if you like, there's a lot going on there, but he basically accused a police officer, as all of these folks do, of being a racist, and he was pulled over because of race, and he was mistreated in all of that. It's important that we watch this because, by the way, this is Police Appreciation Week, something that's not going to happen over at the NAACP or with the Democratic Party. But this is a guy, he's a leader. We all have him in every state. There's an NAACP guy which is nothing more than a race baiter in most instances all across this country, who is nothing but a mouthpiece, dare I say, a house slave to the master of the Democratic Party. So he's pulled over. You want to see how this went down? Because he's claiming he was mistreated, and it was all due to race. Check it out.
Hey, how are you? I'm all right. I'm Officer Miles with the Timothsville Police Department. Yes, sir. Got your license, registration, proof of insurance on you? I'm losing it. Okay, that's fine. Go right ahead. Are you the owner of the motor vehicle?
Yes, sir. I just transferred these.
You just transferred? Okay. What's your name?
Jamie Moultrie.
Okay. You got your driver's license on you, Mr. Jamie? The reason why I'm coming in contact with you is whenever you took the left right here, you didn't signal. Okay, that's the only reason why I'm coming in contact with you, okay? Sit tight for me, okay?
All right, so now he's going back to the car to check up on the registration and make sure that that man is who he says he is. First of all, let me commend the police officer. I wish every police officer within the sound of my voice and image today would pull over people who don't use their blinkers. That's a personal statement. Now, moving on. He had many opportunities. If you believe Black Lives Matter, Kaepernick, Democrats, President Obama, to shoot that man. He reached into his glove compartment. He didn't know what he was reaching for. Bam, 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 right? Here's this black man. Well, we're going to teach this black boy a thing or two because he's in South Carolina and I'm a police officer, and you just watch what this policeman did to this black man. Check this out.
All right, Mr. Bolger, here you go, okay? You register. Try not to drive the car no more until you get the proper documentation, because this registration actually come back to 1992, okay, GMC truck. Yes, even in the system as that too. But what I'm saying, you got to have the proper registration and everything, and insurance and all that stuff to actually indicate that that plate comes back to this motor vehicle, okay? Because when I run the plate, it's still coming back to this. It's not coming back to your car.
Okay, I understand that, but look, I just bought the car the other day. I switched the tags.
Well, you probably need to go to the DMV and ask them how come it's not registered in the state of South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles. It's still coming back to that truck.
I understand that, but this is what I'm telling you. I switched the tags from the truck to the car. They told me at DMV, the dealer put that on there to show that the tag's going to be transferred.
Right.
And all I need to do is keep this registration in there and this bill of sale.
They told you wrong. You got to have the proper documentation in your motor vehicle that actually matches the car that you're operating on South Carolina highways in order for it to actually be legal to operate on South Carolina highways. They told you wrong, okay?
All right.
All right. Other than that, there's your driver's license. Just make sure you wear your seatbelt at all times while operating the motor vehicle on South Carolina highways and drive safe, okay?
The horror of it. Treated like a gentleman, treated with respect. The guy didn't even give him a ticket, not only for not signaling the left-hand turn, but having improper registration, having a license plate on the car that didn't belong there. He gave him a break. And then this guy, head of the NAACP, I'm telling you, this happens more often than not, as they continue to pretend, they continue to push a false meme that every cop in America is trying to get them, that there's systemic, open racism everywhere. This man went out, and then he went on his Facebook page and he said, tonight I was racially profiled by a Timminsonville officer because I was driving a Mercedes-Benz and going home in a nice neighborhood. This is the message that Barack Obama, the first black president of the Democratic Party, continues to make all across America. And then you go to the university system and they continue to do this. And at some point, we're going to play you something. He's caught fire. I forget the gentleman's name, about white privilege. And they push that, white privilege. See? You saw what happened. But here's the deal. He lied. He lied. And you know what that's like in America today, especially with a police officer. When you have a black man who says, this police officer, racially profiled, pulled me over for no reason because I was black and I was in a Mercedes, because a black man, you know, a black man can only be stealing a Mercedes. They can't afford to buy one in a nice neighborhood. Do you understand what kind of reaction you would have got out of the community in, I guess it's Timminsonville? And he wanted that. He wanted that. Any repercussions? Probably not. And if that cop had not had a body camera on, this man, supposedly a respected pastor, reverend, head of the NAACP in this particular community, would have destroyed him, would have destroyed him. And it's that kind of rhetoric, based on false and fraudulent information, that has caused the assassination of 5, 6, 7 police officers in this country. I thought you ought to know. It's a different kind of hate today. And there's no accountability, no responsibility, and the kind of hate that we have on display by the left and a liberal left in America today is actually costing people their lives. I've never seen anything like it. Can we come back and laugh a little? I mean, these kind of people need to be destroyed. But they won't be. We'll be talking about it again. Well, Roseanne, great show, right? ABC wants to pull back. Last Man Standing, taken off the air by ABC because it was too conservative. They're coming back. Excited? I am too. We'll tell you more about it when we come back.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LeMay. It's the Bill LeMay. It's the Bill LeMay Show.
What are you doing?
Cleaning a flintlock musket from the Revolutionary War while enjoying a little bacon and biscuits. This is what our forefathers died for.
Can't you do that in your den?
The Bill of Rights says I can do this wherever I want to do this.
Really? Well, what if your 2-year-old grandson walked in here?
And overpowers me?
Your back could be turned, you could be reaching for a piece of bacon.
Yeah, you could grab the musket out of my hand, shove me to the ground, pour the correct amount of powder in here, take the ramrod, jam it down there, get a musket ball, put that in there, take the ramrod back out, jam that down there, half cock it, put a percussion cap in there, fully cock the thing, and somehow shoot me in the foot.
Just keep the safety on.
Honey, this whole gun is a safety. It's a miracle we're not speaking British right now.
What a great show. What a wonderful show. And ABC took it off. It was one of the highest rated shows on ABC before Roseanne came along, of course. And they pulled it off. And it was this big controversy, of course, that they did it purely because it was conservative in nature. Although, Gutfeld, I think, nailed it. And I think this is why liberals, especially at ABC and elsewhere, are frightened of shows like Last Man Standing and now Roseanne. Here's his reaction.
I don't remember his show being conservative politically, and that's, I think, what the story is here, is that it's being portrayed as conservative simply because it's not so annoyingly liberal.
Right.
Hollywood is so far left now, just being normal, which is what that show appears to be, normal common sense, is now right-wing. That's the story.
And that is the story. He nailed it. That's the story. If you watch the show, and you haven't watched the show, I highly recommend it. It's hilarious. Whether you're a liberal or a Democrat or a conservative, doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, both sides get their licks in, but it's not about that. It's not a political show. It is more about common sense. It's about everyday life in a family that has a variety of different people. It's a funny show. But I think that scares liberals because it's a real life situation, and when you have common sense on display, it becomes apparent because there's very little that the Democratic Party and liberals do today that resemble common sense. Roseanne is another great example. Now, Roseanne, of course, Fox on Last Man Standing said everyone took a good hard look at the success of Roseanne, and it reminded us we have a huge iconic star in our Fox family in Tim Allen. So yeah, we're emboldened by the performance of Roseanne. So Roseanne basically, and the fans were out there screaming for the show to come back as well. That gave Fox the go-ahead to move forward. And why not? It's a good business move, is it not? Roseanne pulled in a lot of numbers. It was a bit political, but again, it was in the sense of family. You had families who voted for Trump, those who didn't vote for Trump. You have a family that is very, very good example of what a lot of Americans are going through. A majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and they have all of the daily challenges. You know, last night we found out that Roseanne has an opioid addiction, and they're addressing that. And they went to a motel, but they couldn't afford it, but they got points on their card, but they didn't have a credit card to get into the room. So these are things that people deal with, how to pay bills, not having a house. And it was brought on at a time when they can't get a surgery on her knee because they can't afford the medical care because of the cost that has gone through the roof. These are all things that are on just display that Americans are living through each and every day. And that scares the hell out of people in the liberal networks. You know, they just got rid of Designated Survivor, which was a hit the first year, and then it got so liberal that people just turned it off. And I think Gutfeld's right. They've gone so far left, and they go so far out of the way to not make fun even of their counterpart politically, but to destroy them, to demonize them. They have a new show coming out where the governor is a Republican, but it's based on the Illinois governor who tried to sell a Senate seat. That's not funny, and people are sick of it. I really do believe people are sick of it, except ABC now has come out. It said, well, don't you worry. We're going to tone back Roseanne. It's not going to be as political as it was. Right crazy, because here they have a hit on their hands, and they're willing to destroy it because of the fear of portraying a real American family who has diversity not only in the characters, their color, their gender, or even the lack of understanding what the gender is, but also in their politics. Scares the hell out of them. Roseanne has come out and said, "Oh, I don't think so." I don't know how she talks. Oh no, if you thought this year was too political, and it really hasn't been, wait till next year. And good for Roseanne. Hollywood and the media have a tremendous impact on our opinions. And it's finally nice to get two shows anyway that represent the struggles and the common sense that American families have to deal with every day. And it's not about Republican or Democrat. Anyway, it's nice to get a laugh at the end. We're going to be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Please tell everyone you know. Have yourself a great Wednesday.
Yes, the entire known media universe is buzzing about the following amazing radio phenomenon.
It's the Bill LeMay. It's the Bill LeMay. It's the Bill LeMay Show.